1920s, Yo-Yos finally gave meaning to the phrase walk the dog, and the Wagon debuted.
Even though its origins technically stretch back millennia, the modern yo-yo first broke onto the childhood scene in the 1920s by way of a Southern California bellhop originally from the Philippines. Pedro Flores spotted opportunity when guests at the hotel he worked at would stop to stare as he played with his yo-yo, which means come home in a native Philippine language, on breaks. Clocking their fascination, he turned to mass manufacturing the toy, only to be bought out before the end of the 1920s by Donald F. Duncan, the magnate behind Good Humor ice cream bars. Another immigrant success story, Antonio Passan's radio flyer Wagon was inspired by his early days growing up in Italy, the country where the radio originated. Once in the US, he created the stamped metal wagon for every girl and boy and sold 1,500 a day at the height of the toy's popularity.
1930s. An attempt to expose the cruelties of capitalism gave the world the cruelties of monopoly, and Viewmasters brought the world to you.
One of the few hit toys whose original intention was to teach a moral lesson about the severe cruelty of America's economic inequality, Monopoly was the name ultimately given to Elizabeth Maggie's Landlord's Game when it was published by the Parker Brothers in 1935. Maggie developed two versions of the game in 1903 as an instructive form of protest against the business practices of the robber barons of her day, such as Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. In one, players were rewarded for generating communal wealth. In the other, players were rewarded for generating monopolies and driving other players into bankruptcy. Players were supposed to see that the first was better than the second. Despite her original vision, the latter version gained more traction, and one Charles Darrow made millions selling a ripped-off version to the Parker Brothers, while Maggie was rewarded with a measly. For the more visually oriented child, the Viewmaster was invented in 1938 and introduced at the 1939 New York World's Fair. From scenic attractions to Disney characters, kids got a very close view of the world from their living rooms.
1940s, kids replicated WWII battlefields with toy soldiers, and the Slinky began its end-over-end tumble. A kind of strange thing happened in the 1940s marketed toward young boys. Toys imitating the battlefields of WWII graced many a living room carpet. Their pod feet allowed them to stand freely, and a kid could get his hands on Allied and Axis forces, so the battlefield really could come to you a less violent plaything. The Slinky was a fortunate mistake. Originally designed by mechanical engineer Richard James while he was developing springs aimed at keeping ship equipment steady, it was only when he accidentally knocked one of his prototypes off a shelf and witnessed its graceful end-over-end walking that he turned to manufacturing it for children. And the kids loved it. 1950s, Barbie came to town, and the Frisbee graduated from college and made it big.
It's tough to overstate the icon that was and continues to be Barbie. However, the plastic mainstay of so many childhoods since her 1959 US debut hasn't been without controversy. After all, she's based on the German-built Lily doll, a working gal. Not only that, but in her tenure at the top of toy market, Barbie has been blamed for everything from introducing unhealthy body image standards to cultural appropriation. The Frisbee's cultural ascension trended, much like one of the famed spinning disc's typical flights, steadily upward. A mainstay of New England college long leisure time, What became the Frisbee started out as humble pie tins made by the Frisbee Baking Company in Connecticut, which bored young folks in the late 19th century took to throwing around to one another. Spotting opportunity in the tin's popularity as a projectile, Walter Morrison and Warren Franchini set about manufacturing plastic versions to sell at fairs. The pair capitalized on the widespread fascination with UFO gripping the country in the late 1940s as a marketing gimmick. It was only when Morrison and Franchini's outfit was acquired by WWII creators of the hula hoop in the 1950s that the Frisbee name rightly came into being, and the saucer's sales took off.
1960s cooking became a game with the Easy Bake Oven, and Hot Wheels led to a nation of kids mimicking car sounds.
The success of the Easy Bake Oven isn't hard to understand. Making your own sweets at an age when next to nothing is in your control has an obvious appeal. While those sweets, which were cooked by the Easy Bake's red-hot internal light bulb, did not always emerge in quite the solid state a child baker might hope, the culinary toy still did gangbusters following its debut in 1963. Designed by Kenner Products, which has since been absorbed by Hasbro, over 500,000 of the original units sold in the oven's first year on the market alone. Hot Wheels, the die-cast mini-vehicles that debuted in 1968, made a big splash in the crowded toy car market by introducing functioning axles and wheels. Their signature looks flame-emblazoned muscle cars, exposed exhaust hot rods, and bizarre one-offs quickly caught the eye of collectors and young car aficionados alike. After all, they were the fastest toy car a kid could buy.
1970s, NERF brought sports indoors where the Speak and Spell was teaching kids literacy. NERF, or non-expanding recreational foam, stormed the living rooms of rowdy kids the world over when Parker Brothers introduced their legendary foam ball in 1970. The company touted its debatable safety for indoor use and sold millions in the process. Before long, sheer variety of forms NERF material could take led to a veritable foam arms race with NERF footballs, guns, bow and arrows, and more debuting in rapid succession. The Speak and Spell was basically the antithesis of NERF. Designed for single-user play and decidedly less active, the toy debuted in 1978 from Texas Instruments. The company, which is also behind the popular line of scientific and graphing calculators, brought their signature innovative streak to the world of educational toys, which could synthesize speech and was available in 7 languages, into the 1990s. 1980s. The Rubik's Cube made Jocks of Brainy puzzle lovers, and My Little Pony captured the colors of an era. 1990s. Furbies taught you how to love. Giga Pets provided existential lessons.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care. Bye.